A fishing reel that cost $16 in 1969 still sells for about that today. That's reason number 7, the old Mitchell 300 keeps beating reels 10 times its price. And yes, people genuinely line a 50-year-old reel up against a $300 one, and the old one holds its own. So how does a reel from the 1960s outlast half the stuff on the shelf right now? It comes down to who built it, what they built it from, and a factory that doesn't exist anymore. The original came out of a small town in the French Alps called Cluses, but when that place shut its doors, something real got lost. There are 7 reasons it still wins, and the last one is the one even collectors argue about. By the end, you'll know exactly what to hunt for and what a fair price looks like. You'll also know the one honest reason a brand new reel might still suit you better. Odds are you've already held one without knowing it. They turned up in millions of tackle boxes. The chrome reel with the black side plate your dad clamped onto a glass rod. So back to that price, because it's almost funny. A 1969 catalog listed the 300 for a hair over $16. Today, a clean used one trades hands for roughly $20 to $40 at estate sales and online. So the reel has barely moved in price across half a century, while everything around it got more expensive. The reason it stays cheap is simple. They built so many that supply never ran dry, even decades after the last one left France. That's not nostalgia talking. That's a working tool holding its value because it refuses to die. And I get it. A cheap old reel sounds like a compromise. But this one isn't. And that's where it gets interesting. Reason number 6 is what's inside it. And this is where I have to correct the legend a little. You'll hear old-timers swear these reels were solid brass, and the new ones are all plastic. That's not quite right, and your sharp-eyed commenters will catch it, so let's be precise. The body was cast metal alloy, the main drive gear was steel and aluminum alloy, and the pinion gears and shims were genuine brass. The gears were precision cut, not cheaply stamped, and they still meshed tight after decades. So it wasn't all brass, but it was real metal where it counted. Compare that to a budget modern reel with a polymer body and lighter guts, and you feel the difference the second you pick one up. And I'm not making that up. The weight alone tells the story. These reels got dunked, dropped in the bottom of the boat, and left in damp bags for years, and they kept turning. Honestly, that heft is half the appeal. Reason number 5 is a detail almost nobody mentions. The company that built it, Carpano and Pons, weren't reel makers first. They were precision instrument and watch gear people, and it shows in the engineering. That watch shop pedigree gave the 300 an oscillating system that laid line evenly across the spool. That one idea was close to 30 years ahead of the field, but it took the rest of the industry decades to copy it. The earliest models even used a simple manual pickup instead of a full wire bail. By the time of a 1968 reel, though, it wore the full bail most of us picture. One quirk stuck around. The rotor spins the opposite way from most modern reels, which throws people off at first. So remember that watch factory, because it explains the next reason too. Reason number 4 is the one repair shops love. A longtime reel tech once put it simply. These old Mitchells are basically all metal and steel. They usually just need a good cleaning to outlast you. The design is so simple, you can shim it with a paper-thin sliver of brass and bring a worn one back to life. But try doing that with a sealed modern reel, where a dead bearing often means a whole new reel. This one was built to be opened, cleaned, and fished again. I personally think that's the entire game. Which leads straight to reason number 3, parts. And this is where that watch factory pays off again. They made these by the tens of millions, and they shared the same core gear cycle across a whole family of models. The 300, the left-hand 301, the little 308 ultralight, even the faster 400 series, all share guts. So a donor reel for spare parts is never far away, even now. A 50-year-old product you can still fix with common parts is genuinely rare, and that's no accident. The same outfit that obsessed over watch gears designed that interchangeability in from day one. Reason number 2 is simple proof you can check yourself. Walk any pier with a gray-haired angler, and there's a fair chance he's still fishing a Mitchell he bought before you were born. Some of these have outlived the man who bought them and gotten handed down twice. They show up at estate sales still spinning, still dragging fish in. Repair shops built steady little businesses on nothing but keeping them alive. That's not marketing. That's a half-century of field testing you can verify with your own eyes. People pull these from a garage, wipe them down, and catch fish the same afternoon. And reason number one, the one collectors argue about. The original 300 wasn't built to be replaced. It was built to be rebuilt forever. But here's the honest part, and I won't dodge it. A modern $300 reel is smoother, lighter, and far better in saltwater, and it retrieves line faster. The old one purrs like a coffee grinder and reels slow. So it doesn't win on every spec, but it wins the only race that lasts decades. It's still here, still working, still landing fish. So the point was never to scare you off new gear. It's to show you that the thing you actually want, a reel that lasts, already exists and it barely costs anything. So how do you get one that's truly worth it? Start with the standard 300, the one that cranks with your left hand. Its mirror twin, the 301, cranks right, so pick whichever matches your hands. The little 308 is the ultralight, and it's the gem nobody brags about, perfect for trout and panfish. The earliest half-bale models from the 40s are the real collector pieces, but a clean later 300 is the one you actually want to fish. Hunt for one stamped made in France, with clean paint and a spool that isn't chewed up. A matching spare spool and the original canister are a bonus, not a deal breaker. Expect $20 to $40 for a good user, and don't pay collector money unless it's boxed and minty. A quick way to spot a good one is to turn the handle slowly and listen. A healthy 300 sounds smooth and steady, never gritty or notchy. One honest warning though. If you fish heavy saltwater, or you want glassy, smooth, modern drag, buy the new reel and don't look back. But for lakes, rivers, and light inshore work, a clean old 300 is, I'd say, worth every penny you'll spend on it. So the lesson isn't that old always beats new, because it doesn't. But real metal, simple design, and parts you can still find, will outlast almost anything sold to you today. You don't need the most expensive reel on the wall. You need the one built to be fixed and fished for 40 years. The next time you pass a dusty tackle box at a yard sale, you'll know whether you're looking at junk or a 50-year head start. And if you still run one of these, drop the year and model below. Because I read them. And if you think this reel is a steal, wait until you find out which other vintage gear quietly beats today's premium names. YouTube thinks you'll like this video, so click it. And if you made it to the end, subscribe